Hello, welcome to PureEsperanza's Weaving Stories of Your Well-Being. Today, in this season, we're going to be sharing a story or two and just some time to reflect on the season of Thanksgiving. And this coming out to you right before Thanksgiving, we offer it as a gift to you that you may be able to share this with your family and friends. If you haven't heard of PureEsperanza, we are a nonprofit organization dedicated to bringing forth consciousness while educating body, mind, and soul in the art of well-being. So today with me, I have my beautiful co-host, Balaka Ghosal. Thank you, Balaka. Thank you for being here. And you can read a little bit about her on our community page. Balaka is the owner and founder of Greenwriter LLC, and that is one of her many gifts, and she comes to us with one of her more hidden gifts of storytelling. So we're so thankful that you're here today to share just some different bits and pieces of this collection of wisdom. And when we were talking about today, we were just talking about just different pieces of giving thanks, and Balaka and I love to jump into different kinds of topics that help us to just think about these greater ideas that bring us more well-being, more abundance in our life. And that's how we got around to talking today about this side of giving and receiving, and this opportunity that we get to feel this continuum between both sides of the giving and receiving. And when we enter with this kind of consciousness, there's just such a greater expansion of gift, of abundance, a wealth of abundance that's received. Because then the engagement is a little bit different than just being the one who's doing the giving or just being the one who's receiving, but it's an understanding of this reciprocity that goes from one to the other, similar to like this flowing lemniscate, a figure eight. And I believe, Balaka, you may have a story about this.
Oh, yes. And I remember this story in so many different situations in my life. And I think after listening to this one, you all listeners will be, remembering this in many different moments, intriguing moments of your lives. So once upon a time in Persia, there was the emperor, the caliph, the fifth caliph of the, of the royal dynasty, the King Harun al-Rashid. And he was well known not only for helping everyone who came to him with a problem, but he also took care of the whole culture and growth of his kingdom and the people. So the art flourished, and music and science, and whoever had any worth to give got the opportunity to give it. So the whole community, the whole kingdom was thriving. And here was a very poor man who had heard of the emperor, and he lived far away from Baghdad, the capital city where the emperor, the caliph, lived. And he walked. This poor man named Shakabak walked and walked and walked, and his robe got dirty and tattered even more. And he was hungry. He got some broken pieces of old bread from other poor people along the way, who poor in the sense they wouldn't give too much, they gave their leftovers. But the hunger inside was gnawing and kind of burning him up. And he was just waiting that once I reach the palace, I heard that the emperor, the Badshah, never disappoints anyone. So maybe I'll get a full meal, a full plate to eat at my heart's content. and his eyes were sunken from hunger, and in all his old tattered robes he arrived at the court. It was a full court, full with hundreds of people, and the ministers and the emperor sitting right at the end. And he waited in one corner, very hesitant that, there are so many big issues they're talking about, and I'm only here for a meal. That's too small to ask. Maybe I should leave. But his heart kept saying, no, the emperor never disappoints you. Stay there. He might just give you what you want. And he stayed patiently in one corner until it was time for the court to be, adjourned, and everyone was walking out. The king stood up, ready to leave. And then he noticed this man in the corner, not leaving, but just standing a little cowered down, hesitant. And he asked, yes, what do you want? And he hesitated, and then he said that I haven't eaten for days. He couldn't ask for, like, can you give me a lot to eat? That was written on all over him. And the king knew, and he said, well, come with me. Come with him? Where am I going to go in these tattered clothes? Where does he want me to go? He just didn't know what to do. But the royal workman said, yes, come, the emperor is calling you. He walked forward, he said, today you will dine with me in my personal dining room. Come. And in these clothes, he's smelly and dirty. His hands are dirty. It felt so unworthy. But then the royal, people in the court said, come inside. They took them to the washroom where he washed his hands and face, and his hair got combed, and he got new, clean clothes to wear, like another robe. He felt so new, and then to the royal dining room. You can imagine what a Badshah's palace dining room would be like, how ornate, how beautiful. And from the kitchen, far away, the aroma was luring him, and the fire in his stomach was like, I cannot believe how fortunate I am. Is this real? Is this really happening? Yes, it is. Oh my goodness. And he was filled with gratitude, and again feeling, am I worthy of so much food, so much of kindness that I'm being showered? And when he sat down, the king at the head of the long table, he sat right next to him. Silver plates were brought, and the silver deep bowls of hot water to wash their hands in, and nice towels. And as he looked in and he saw the king, he was copying the king, because as a beggar, he had never done this before. He was learning what to do. But there was no hot water. And the king said, nice hot water. Oh, I love this towel. But there was no towel on the tray. And the waiters just bowed and moved on. And the next set of waiters came with big platters with, dish covers that they picked up to reveal what's inside. And they were naming the items as the king asked, the pulao and the curries and the dumplings, but they were all empty. But the king ate on and said, oh, I love this. Do you like it, Shakabak? Don't you think the gravy is just amazing? And Shakabak was shocked deep inside that, am I dreaming? Is this the king jeering at my poverty, at my hunger? And once he was thinking, do I deserve all this goodness? And now he's thinking, does any poor person deserve this jeering? Or is there something else happening? What am I experiencing? But instead of being angry with the king, he was deeply intuitive, curious, and just out of self-respect, out of respect for the king, he decided not to utter a word, but just to go through this. He would be hungry, he told himself. I was without food anyway. I would be walking down the street had I not known of the king. I would be living on some broken pieces of dry bread. So let me accept this as part of the game. But the aroma was really testing his limits of patience. The intensity of hunger doubled, tripled, but he went through with a smile. And each time the king said, Shakabak, do you like this? Isn't this great? I love this. Bring me some more, please. Why don't you take some more? He accepted it and he said, yes, I like the food, Your Royal Highness. Very kind of you. And then came the desserts, luscious desserts, the creamy, carameled things, some liquid, some chewy, some flaky like baklavas. And then again, the hot water to wash all the oily residue from the fingers, the spices. And then came the fennel to digest well. All this, the king burped. And said, thank you. Are you full? Is your hunger completely quelled? And he said, yes, Your Royal Highness. And may I have your permission to leave? And he said, yes, you may go on your way. Thank you for being my company at lunch. And he bowed and respectfully left, still in disbelief of what he has just experienced. He said, maybe this is the most unique experience of any poor man around the world who had the pleasure of dining with the emperor from empty plates, empty bowls. And just as he had gone out of the palace gate, he heard someone call him, hey, listen, hey you, poor man. And I looked back behind, said, me? Who knows me here? No one. And he saw another man from the palace, wearing that palace workman attire, running towards him. And said, well, the Badshah, the emperor, wants to talk to you again. I said, me? Again? Is there another joke waiting for me? Who knows? But he had this dignified curiosity, and neither had he any choice. He walked back in, and he found the emperor sitting at the same spot at his table, smiling, and said, Shakabak, come, let's now eat. And he's thinking, do I have to do that fake eating one more time? And he said, well, if you had a doubt if we were really eating or not, let me tell you, I was faking with you. You have passed the test of patience and dignity, and we will now eat the real food. My friend, come sit with me. And then the real hot water came, the real towel, and the real food, one by one, unbelievably tasty, and hunger is the best spice. So Shakabak ate in profound silence and gratefulness. And then the king, in the end, after they had finished all their desserts, they were chewing their fennel. The king said, I'm so touched by your wisdom to not talk to me, not to ask me why. And so from today, every day of your life, you can come to my kitchen door anytime There is always food cooking here, and whatever we have that day, you will eat too. Not with the king every day, but he would he will receive the royal food for himself any time of the day he arrived for the rest of his life. And that goodness, with that thankfulness, Shakabak received it with grace, again, thanking for that enriching experience of giving. So this story, we have many takeaways, each to our own, but the emperor's takeaway from here was a wise man, and I'm patronizing the biggest problem of food from his life so he can enrich many others with his valuable gift of wisdom. And that shows the greatness of Harun al-Rashid as a great emperor who not only just gave to the poor, but he developed the entire community's culture by supporting the right things in the people. And that's why he put him through that cruel, excruciatingly painful test of fake eating when he was at the end of his tethers with hunger. So this is a story that I remember at many times, giving me courage to go through tough moments, and I'm sure it will do to you. So Esperanza, I'm sure you have.
What a beautiful story. Thank you so much, Balaka. You know, I couldn't help but, you know, I'm sure everyone listening is going to have different perspectives. It was just written with so many layers of depth from that perspective of being Shakaba to all those things that went on in his head as the receiver. At that moment, he felt that worthlessness going into a place that was so grand, so amazing and beautiful. Could he possibly, how could it possibly be him that was chosen to go? And then to, oh my gosh, I'm receiving, I'm the recipient, and then to doubting and wondering, and then to thinking like, oh, is this a joke, you know? And I just think at that moment, at that, just right there, and there's still so much more after that in the story, but even right there, how many times any one of us may have experienced that and then sensed a sense of humiliation or embarrassment or something of that nature, and all the different kinds of responses that as a human being, you know, the ego comes out with.
Yes.
But it's so amazing to be in that way that Shakaba was, with just being able to like, okay, I'll accept this. And there's a fine line between that acceptance of what is, or being in a state where you would allow someone just to trample over you and walk over you again and again. But this was a different way in how he was relating with this experience. And so there's these two sides, because there at that moment when he does that acceptance, it's as if though he engages in a willingness to try to understand what it is that's coming his way without understanding it, without comprehending it. And even with letting his mind kind of, okay, he's aware of all these thoughts that he's having, but just allowing them to move through, and he's still participating in this engagement, which is in a way his investment into what is the unknown, what's going to happen now. And
a dignified curiosity, you know.
And this is something that's so true about any one of us on a life journey, that life will hand us things that feel really awful at times. or even cruel at times. And, you know, we can choose at that time how to receive that, whether we become the victims or even as the givers, becoming the rescuers, you know, and you know, wanting to just give out, give out, give out. But this piece, both the emperor and Shakaba, the poor man, were receiving these gifts. The emperor was giving in a way with that wanting to see what it was that Shakaba was going to be willing to reciprocate. And he did, with his willingness to just be like, okay, I'll receive, like you said, the dignified curiosity. That's a new one. Yeah. There's this continuum that we had talked about at the very open.
Exactly.
Right.
So even in, so sorry, go ahead. So even in, you know, when you beautifully mentioned the continuum, even the really wise, rich people who can give any richness, it doesn't have to be in terms of money, any kind of richness that we have in this life, the really wise think it as a gift that has been received, and then in parting with it to the right places, they feel that responsibility of giving it to the right recipients.
Yeah.
So whether it's money or a skill or anything, so in that giving, there is that fulfillment that the person feels, the giver feels, humble and fulfillment in the rightful, you know, giving it to the right person, the right inheritor of that goodness, and also feeling, getting grace in return, you know, if it has gone to the right receiver, then you get a, it's too subtle to put in words and explain. So it is not just giving, is not a random act of, oh, I have spare, so I'm giving it away to anyone I feel empathetic about, but that responsible act of giving. And also the receiver should all feel, no matter where you are, like if even the emperor here has received some goodness by inheritance or by whatever we can call it, has received a certain goodness that with which he's building his entire kingdom to feel lifted, you know, in quality. So he's choosing who he's going to give. For a long term, he just took that entire worry of nutrition and satiation out of his way in life for Shakaba, so that he could now peacefully spread his goodness. So it has a geometric progression that way. And a lot of wellness can be created through that. So
just beautiful.
So beautiful.
And body, mind, and soul, you know, I think to myself, in the way that it was received, that then he now, even though he may be poor still, he is receiving still from this. He himself also feels shocked about the ability that he passed this test. So there's an inner stirring within him, like a seed that was dropped, that allows him to experience the fullness of this abundance that comes his way, and that he is worthy, that he's worthy to receive it. He's passed this test. And then that is part of that emperor building his kingdom up and lifting it all the way around him, because much too often in modern day society, just to switch it a little bit, and I love this idea of, you know, looking at the coin from two sides, because our modern day society, you know, with so many nonprofits, even like how we are, you know, there is always that piece where people give out donations or whatever, you know, they perceive as those gifts going on. And I've worked in many nonprofits during my life and seen how often people that have great amounts of wealth give out. And sometimes that giving out might not even necessarily be in connection with what the purpose or the cause or the mission is, but within that circle of people that give, it's like an opportunity to say, hey, see how many zeros were after that amount, you know, that I gave out, you know, kind of thing. And that
the
is,
ego comes in.
yeah, and that's not a building of the community in the way this wise emperor was able.
Not giving with respect to the people, giving from pity.
Exactly.
Where I'm holding on myself in a higher, you know, on a pedestal, where it should be the other way around.
Right.
Giving with respect because they are deserving of
correct
what I have received. I'm just a conduit passing it on to those
right.
who absolutely need.
And even that part, you know, again, going back to referencing just different things that I've seen or experienced, that type of giving also fosters a different kind of way that it's received. And having worked with many homeless communities in the course of my lifetime, I've been with homeless people that are very, you know, have that same kind of thankfulness in them as to how it's arrived to them, and in their just their love and their willingness to give back in the ways that they can. And I learned so much, and some of my most meaningful experiences in this lifetime have been with people that are homeless and have chosen that path, not necessarily because it was you know, a crisis or something that ended up happening to them.
Right.
On the same side of that coin, I've also met people who were homeless that were involved in the way that other type of lemniscate works. And so they felt that it was supposed to be given to them because they were on the street or they had a hardship. And so if you have money, you should be given to me, kind of thing. And that's the other side of that same kind of giver that gives because they feel they're up here. Then we have this other side that feels like, and I should be getting it because I'm down here. And so that's a different kind of a fostering that doesn't in either way lift. And so this story was so powerful in terms of giving a clear example of how both sides of that coin received that wealth.
Yes, yes. And it created a, you know, high tide, and it will have such a long effect, you know, prolonged effect on many other people. I'm thinking even the people who waited on this whole event twice, you know, the fake eating and the real one. And they are also learning and growing in a way that cannot be defined, or we cannot really measure it, but it's going to spread through them as well. So it's a high tide, just like in a high tide, all boats rise, small or big. Same way in a community, when the high tide of goodness comes, with a man at the helm, a wise man at the helm, and a wise receiver, its impact is undeniably way more than just those moments and just one stomach being fed for life. It's way beyond that.
Oh, so much richness, so much goodness with this. And, you know, without giving too much more, I feel like it's something that we can chew on, you know, allow it to savor and masticate it a bit over time, you know, and perhaps others will be receiving this at Thanksgiving time, since it's just right around the corner. And as we go into the giving season, the more, let's say, you know, popularized giving season of Christmas and all of that, but just being able to extract these pieces as you wrap a gift, as you make that donation, as you consider even PureEsperanza as a way for Giving Tuesday to make a donation for received as a gift, what may have touched or impacted your life in the ways that we offer so many opportunities to empower body, mind, and soul, yours. And
how it has evolved. How it has evolved beautifully is that Thanksgiving and Giving Tuesday, so much in discussion now. Yes, there is Black Friday too, but this Giving Tuesday and thanks and giving, how they're intertwined beautifully together over, in less than a week's time. That's a good moment to ponder that how much and how we give and who we give to, giving with respect, receiving with respect, taking the pride away, and even as a giver, feeling humble as we give is a beautiful continued journey of giving and thanking, gratitude, and feeling good.
And this is how I thank you, Balaka, for being here and imparting your wisdom, sharing your stories. They're such beautiful gifts of the heart, and for the work that you do and the benefit to our board here at PureEsperanza. We thank you so much for that. We thank all of you out there for all that you are doing. Every one of you being able to give and receive in this continuum and in this evolution of all of us at this time, facing all the different things that we're facing in the world at this time, and imagining, envisioning, lending your positive energy in all the ways, even the simple ways, the smiles, the ability to be able to open your eyes that new day and in some moment give thanks. And in this way, all that energy is going to be shifting that consciousness towards a greater good for all of us and the future for our children and our children's children and beyond. So we're so thankful. And if you'd like to find Balaka, you can find her on her website. Balaka, would you like to share that with them?
Yes, I have a tiny little website, thegreenwriter.com. And you can visit it anytime. I'll be very thankful for that. And there are a couple of free gifts there. Gifts are always supposed to be free. And you do not need to, have an email full with my emails coming to you, to your inbox. No, you can check that off and I will, not pursue you, but you can have those free gifts sent to yourself for a simple greener living and a couple of other things out there. So enjoy, and if you leave your comments, if you get in touch with me, I'm also available on Facebook as Balaka Ghosal, the Green Writer. The Green Writer should be able to pull it up for you. And just share your greatness with me and enrich me. I would be very thankful for that.
And you could also just find so many great tips on a just day-to-day basis with all kinds of reusing materials in your home, all kinds of creative ways. I'm sure you will appreciate Balaka's ingenuity and creativity. Thank you. It's such a beautiful resource. And we're so thankful that Balaka is part of our community. And we always are thankful as others continue to come into the community and to grow. And this community that I think about isn't reserved to just or exclusive to PureEsperanza. It is really about this global community that we all come together with, and to be able to make those connections with all different people, organizations, all still with that same premise of advancing where we are today to a greater tomorrow. And with that, we hope that you will look for us too, PureEsperanza, our website, pureesperanza.org. We are also on social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, where you can always receive daily inspiration, tips, information on holistic living, and just overall well-being, body, mind, and soul, with that fundamental idea of consciousness expanding through each and every one of us, from the simplest, smallest choices we make today to everything that leads us one step at a time to tomorrow. Thank you so much for being here today. Thank you for thinking of us on Giving Tuesday. Blessings unto you and your families as you share a meal together, as you share the hunger and the feast for all that you're wishing for.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye. Till next time.